And dry this evening with just the odd clear spell. Isolated showers will move into Munster and Connacht through the evening. Highest temperatures 15 to 20 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, for an effortless finish to your day. New Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
This is News Talk.
All right, it is Thursday's Off the Ball. Nathan with you until 10 o'clock. We've got a busy show ahead. We'll have Conor Myler coming up, looking ahead to the statistical preview of the All-Ireland football final. And we got a healthy dose of nostalgia as well. The year 2000, the last time Kerry and Galway met in the All-Ireland final, went to a replay before Kerry took the honours, and we're going to be joined by the Galway manager that day, John O'Mahony, and also Johnny Crowley, who had a fine final, kicked 3 points from play, the first of them after just 16 seconds. So they're going to join us at 7:30 to look back on that final, which gave us maybe the greatest goal scored, certainly this century, in an All-Ireland football final. I'll bow to some superior knowledge if there's been a greater one. 53106 is the text number, at Off the Ball on social media. And John Giles back in studio this evening after 9 o'clock. Last week we started the series, it's going to run for the next couple of weeks, on John's memories of the greatest managers of his playing era. So we started with Don Revie last week, and was very well received by everybody. And tonight John's going to be in studio. He's going to be talking about Matt Busby, who of course he played with at Manchester United. So that coming your way after 9 o'clock. Richie McCormack is with us. Good evening, Richie.
Nathan, evening.
Joe Molloy, good evening.
I was thinking, Giles played with Busby as well. I mean, is there no end to this man?
No, he didn't, because Busby was quite a bit older than Don Revie. So whereas Giles, I think, might have played just about against Revie as he was coming to the end of his career before he took charge at Leeds, Busby had been manager at Manchester United for, 12, 13 years by the time Giles arrived. Like, just the most remarkable story of a man who brought the club up from its knees on 2-3 occasions, comes in just a couple of months after the war finishes. Manchester's been bombed heavily, the city's on its knees, and he comes in and over the course of the next decade builds this brilliant side that's winning leagues, winning FA Cups. Obviously then the Munich disaster, where he's incredibly fortunate to survive himself, and builds another great team that ends up with that European Cup in 1968. And yeah, as you can imagine with John, he has just so many brilliant recollections of what he was like around the ground, around the training ground when he was there. One of these managers of that era who wasn't really around the training ground too often, left it to Jimmy Murphy to do all the hard work, but has a lot of good things to say about Matt Busby. So definitely well worth listening in after 9 o'clock. Yeah,
no, he's 30 years older than him. I figured they hadn't played together. That'd be quite something, though. That'd be, John Giles has played with everyone if he didn't play with Matt Busby. Bloody hell.
Well, we did do the John Giles best 11 he had played against, and it encompassed a lot of players that you would have thought, really? I wouldn't have put them in the same generation. But yeah, along the way he's played with the best of them, I think.
Yeah. No, I look forward to that. Busby, very interesting figure. I mean, would have a reputation as well, like, might have been overly generous to the players and fought his hardest for them when it came to their salaries?
No, there was obviously the time of the maximum wage, and I think John's line is always that Busby would have said, when this goes, all you guys deserve to get £100 a week. And then it went, and the offer was £25 a week.
Yeah.
And then maybe there was a bit of collusion going on between Busby and Shankly, so that all the Manchester United and Liverpool players ended up being paid the exact same.
Right.
But listen, it wasn't just the players who were finding it tough then. Like John was making the point, with all of these managers of that era, we talk about Busby and not leaving, and the pressure on Wilf McGuinness and Frank O'Farrell of this shadow over their shoulders every day around the club, that it wasn't so much maybe that Busby didn't want to leave. It was that he just simply couldn't leave. He was 60 years of age. He lived for another 24, 25 years. And he wouldn't have had any money. He wouldn't have been a wealthy man in any way, despite all the success. So he sort of had to hang around to have something to do. And an awful lot of these managers were given jobs in the background, like sometimes in the post room, sometimes in the club shop, just something to give them a job to keep them going, which was football at the time.
Yeah. And he had an office famously at Old Trafford until the very end. Even the class of 92 would talk about Busby's office down the hall there, and you could smell the cigarette smoke. I suppose the modern day equivalent is a Ferguson, who's still very much on the payroll. Probably more lucrative than Matt Busby's time.
Somewhat, I suspect. The old director role at Old Trafford, probably more lucrative than it's ever been right now, I'd say, under the Glazers.
I would think so. Just go to the box and have some chats with Habib, and always pick your best players on camera and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a gravy train now, that's for sure.
So we're also going to be looking ahead to the football final, Kerry against Galway. We got John O'Mahony. Always great to talk to John O'Mahony. And we got Johnny Crowley as well. I'm definitely, this is a typical thing I would do of putting him on the spot of the greatest goal scored in an Ireland final. This century, Declan Meehan's has got to be up there.
Yeah, that is typical of you, I agree. What are these?
So get your text in, and then Joe will make his ultimate decision at the end of the news round.
Well,
I'd obviously go for like Andy Moran, but I don't think it, that's more of a importance to me moment.
Trying to think. Michael Murphy's goal for Donegal was it's still not a patch on Meehan's, but it was very dramatic, and
Peter Canavan
start to 2012. Peter Canavan, describe for me.
O'Mulligan plucks it out of the sky, lays it off. Canavan's coming in 100 miles an hour, manages to curve his way around to the fence, smashes it into the net.
Yeah. I mean, again, you wouldn't knock it. Lee Keegan got obviously a great goal in the All-Ireland final, kind of bustling through and all his brilliant running ability against Dublin. But again, like that, this is the Galway goal where I'd say about 10 players get a touch, and it's high paced. And
I think it's also the players that are getting the touches.
Yeah,
like Donlan is involved, Joyce plays it in, like Sean Ogue is there. Like it's from one end of the pitch with all that great Galway team involved, and then the quality of the run from Declan Meehan, who appears out of nowhere. The ball into him from Clancy is just out of this world. I think it's the pick of them. Mick is saying Owen Merchant. Like there's a few Dubs goals. Kev Mack's goal.
Well, they are contenders actually for import as well. Yeah, I mean Merchants is insane, but I suppose it's the team element of that Galway one, isn't it? And it does feel, just popped up my Twitter feed today, it does feel like football of a different era, that kind of style, and even just the positions that they're all taking up on the pitch. It's so different to today. Like there's like 6 forwards up there, and as you said, the finish is extraordinary. I mean, Meehan had that amazing period where he was like a greyhound, and he'd run from deep and do extraordinary things on a semi-regular basis. I think it's leading light at the moment. I mean, Kev Mack's goal kind of iconic as well, but so far it's so Meehan.
Greater GA brains than us out there. 53106. Tell us what we're missing out on here. It will not be a Mayo goal for once that wins this impromptu poll that we're having right now. Richie, how are you keeping?
Not too bad.
So we got a few League of Ireland teams in Conference League action this evening.
Yeah, St Pat's and Sligo Rovers both in Conference League second round qualifier action this evening. The Saints welcoming Slovenian side Mura to Richmond Park. Mura, you might remember, took 3 points off Tottenham in the group stage of the same competition last season. And Sligo there are away to Motherwell. Hours before that game at Fair Park, Sligo confirmed the sale of goalkeeper Ed McGinty to Oxford United for an undisclosed fee. The 22-year-old's father and agent had apparently kept the level of interest in him a secret from the player, something of which McGinty is grateful.
Yeah, it's nice to have that. I don't want to be peppered with all the news and the rumours and stuff, so I just wanted to stay focused with Sligo and try to keep playing well and do my stuff, and then if something that I felt was right came up, I would think about it.
McGinty was the second, the second League of Ireland player today to join the League One side, following Promise Amashair's move from Bohemians to Fleetwood Town. Bowes will receive a fee of close to 6 figures with potential add-ons, and Amashair says the move came together quite quickly.
I think I was in Germany. We had a friendly against Union Berlin in the Bundesliga. We played against them, and after the game, I saw a text. Agent just said Fleetwood are very interested. I didn't really think much of it at the time, and then as the days got past, it just got more and more serious. And then I think after about 3 days, it's might have decided me going over here and moving and all. So yeah, it happened very quick, but not quick at the same time. It's a weird feeling, but it's just good to be here now and get it done.
I saw Daniel Lambert, CEO of Bohemians, pointing out that this is going to become more common because of Brexit, that a lot of these guys would have gone at 16 and we wouldn't have noticed. They wouldn't have actually broken through in the League of Ireland, so it wouldn't have garnered quite as much attention. But God, it's incredibly frustrating for the league as it tries to grow, that players that you see and grow attached to and want to see how they develop over the course of the season disappear mid-season, while so many of these teams are in European action. Like Danny Mandreu, I know he had an injury, but leaving Rovers before their Champions League qualifiers. Ed McGinty when Sligo are playing tonight. It's I know it's a sign that there's a lot of players been developed, Richie, but at the same time, like contract situations, finding a way to keep them, or at least getting value for them, like, it doesn't feel as though there's any great improvements been made there at all.
It's a vicious circle, to be honest. We were talking to Vinnie Perth about this on Tuesday night on the show, and he was saying that the agents involved and the level of agents, like, you'd be surprised perhaps to hear, is like very, very intrinsic to these moves. And they basically have the clubs over a barrel. So they know that, you know, the clubs are going to get a certain amount of money every year. They know that if a player goes for X amount of money, that will represent the club's earnings from the league or from Europe for a year as well. So, and clubs aren't able to tie players down due to the financial constraints on them to multi-year contracts. So in the event that certain players are on multi-year contracts, and some have been, and some have been able to go in recent years, they do get like those 5, perhaps 6-figure sums. But the majority, you know, perhaps don't and are in danger of going for free or close to it, unless, you know, clubs find a way to generate more income. Then they're not going to be able to tie people down to bigger deals. So this is just going to keep happening and happening and happening until there is some kind of shift away from the model that's currently in place.
I do take all those points for sure. Like, an aspect of this is that Brexit has made it harder for UK clubs at lower league level to sign European players due to work permit issues, and the Irish market isn't affected by those same issues. So that's one of the reasons. The other aspect which jumps out is we just have a younger League of Ireland now, probably for Brexit and the reason that UK academies have become, you know, global entities, and therefore it's harder for Irish kids to get over. It means more players are coming through here. Brexit is a part of that as well. And so there is now a glut age 19, 23 who've made the breakthrough at home and are going over. And whilst I do take your point about not wanting to be a feeder league and to lose our young established stars, it's a much better model than sending over 15-year-olds.
It is, and listen, I definitely have a lot of sympathy with players and, dare I say it, even agents, in terms of why would a player commit their long-term future to a club when they are 17 or 18, not knowing, you know, what the club's plans are in the League of Ireland, or, listen, we know how League of Ireland clubs have been run through the years, but also why would they make that long-term commitment when they simply don't need to? They're not going to be massively financially rewarded. And it is a good thing that we're getting to see some of these players and that they're not going when they're 14, 15 over to digs in England. But it's also not a great thing, I think, Joe, for the league to be that young, like, where there's not players staying and being established in terms of just growing interest and getting people to games and knowing that you'll see the same players season after season. Like, you know, Bows have lost their best 2 young players. Pats have lost their 2 best young players. If Andy Lyons go, like, Rovers have arguably lost their 2 best players this season.
No,
mid-season.
It's not ideal, and we're going to be a feeder league. But I mean, how many stories of those same leading stars who might have went over at 14, 15 were eaten up by the system and spat out and maybe walked away from the game because they were completely disenchanted? Whereas this is a much healthier state of affairs for me, where they go over now as men and they've had a footballing education and maybe a literal education as well, and they're more equipped to handle the UK market. And, you know, it's such an industry over there. So look, you would want the best to stay here. You'd want the standards here to go through the roof and for it to generate money and all that kind of stuff. But with, you know, when we're talking about individuals and these individual players, I mean, I just say absolutely good luck to them, and it's just a much better state of affairs. And more Irish talents will continue to come through and populate the league, and lots of it will stay as well. So I don't know. I do take your point, but I'm far more comfortable with this kind of a scenario than the 14-year-old exodus year after year after year after year.
Newsround is brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Lots of texts in, as you can imagine. So, as we said, we're talking about the greatest goal of this century in an All-Ireland football final. Seamus Darby's goal all the way. Mike Gleeson. Come on, listen up there, Mike. I knew Seamus Darby would come in straight away.
Still, yeah. In fairness, it's still the 20th century and awfully so.
Jack McCaffrey, 2019. Howard catch, great hand passing. McCaffrey doesn't break his stride. Definitely up there. There's been a lot of similar-ish quality, great Dublin goals that are just done at ridiculous pace. That definitely gets them on the shortlist. The being goal, Joyce plays it in, having 30 seconds before started it all in the cornerback position. Yeah, poor Joyce, brilliant in that. Canavan's is the most iconic. Watch it from behind the goal and you'll see just what a genius he is. He angles his run for the mulligan offload while the ball is still in the air. Brilliant from Muggsy too, to hold off the defender to wait until the perfect second for the pass. Just all round class. Lots of text as well from goals that aren't in All-Ireland finals. It's a very simple criteria we have here.
Yeah. I think one of the lovely things about the Galway goal, if you watch it back, this is too intricate to be a planned move. You can't plan moves like this from that deep and anticipate if you're going to be pressurised or not, or what's going to happen. So it's so, and unlike, say, like Merchant, which is just, you know, and well, that's a planned move, but it's just someone running a pace. Or even McCaffrey has that. It's like Howard goes and McCaffrey takes off and it kind of just unfolds in a very natural way. There's a degree of this Galway team full of these brilliant players like playing some jazz with each other. Like we're not sure where this is going, but they can sort of, there is a certain impetus to the move, and geez, a kick in there adds a something to it, and Meehan sort of thinks, okay, I'm going to gamble on this, and it just sort of takes on a bit of a life of its own. And I think that can only happen when, one, you've got outrageous skill and a certain kind of intellect where they're all reading off each other's body language and movements, and that's kind of why that's so, well, beautiful.
Well, the little Donlan flick of the hand back to Joyce, like, that's just, actually, I see a space for my teammate here. Instead of catching that ball, trying to drag a foul, drag yourself down, take from there, it's actually, we're gone. Like,
totally.
This is
it's
one thing in
very
mind.
reactive, and it's like, keep it going. Like, don't drop it, keep it going. You know, like that. Like I said, like it's a bunch of artists playing jazz and just trying to keep the thing alive. And I mean, when Meehan pops up and does that, there's the finish that you need. You know.
We've officially hit its coming home stage at the Euros, Richie. It didn't look like it for long periods last night. England were totally outplayed by Spain for about 83 minutes, but they got the job done. Sensational goal from Stanaway to win it. And the second quarterfinal's on tonight?
Yeah, in the other half of the draw, Germany meeting Austria in the quarterfinals of Women's Euro 2022. Tonight they go head-to-head at the Brentford Community Stadium, where kickoff is once again at 8 p.m.
So the European major on the ladies' tour is the Evian Championship in France. First round underway.
Yeah, Leona Maguire opened with a 1-under par round of 70 at the fourth major of the year, the Evian Championship. Stephanie Meadows just a shot worse off in the clubhouse on level par. Japan's Ayaka Fiore is the clubhouse leader there on 8 under par. Padraig Harrington's opening round of 66 leaves him 2 shots off the lead as the opening day of the Senior Open Championship winds down. Darren Clark has actually gone one better in the past few minutes. He has carded a round of 65 today. He's in clubhouse on 5 under par. Canada's Stephen Ames leads on 6 under. He shot a 64 today. Niall Carney, currently best of the Irish, on 3 under par on the opening day of the Kazoo Classic. He's actually dropped back now to 2 under par. Jonathan Caldwell is 1 under after a 71 today. Cormac Sharvin, David Higgins and Simon Thornton all level par. Jens Dantorp, Grant Forrest and Julien Guerrier jointly lead in Southport on 6 under par.
What about Liv, Richie? What's the latest Liv news for us?
Jason Kokrak.
Kokrak.
He's on board, Nathan. We're all pining to see some Kokrak at Trump Bedminster.
Careful now. And Charles Howell. Don't forget about Charles Howell. Charles Howell is a perfect man for Liv Golf, Joe. He's one of these, I won't call him a journeyman because I'm fairly sure he's made about 30 million in career earnings without ever really winning a tournament.
Yeah, it's kind of his hallmark, isn't it, to surprise you with how much money he's made next to how much he's actually not won.
Yeah, it's sort of modern golf summed up in one player. So Leona Maguire, she's 7 off the lead. This was the tournament last year. She had a 61, lowest round ever in a major, men's or women's, at the Evian Championship. But obviously had some difficulties getting her clubs over there. Got them eventually, but she's a bit off. But Harrington won the last major in the seniors tour. Like, at some stage soon, Harrington's going to want to start counting these. If he wins this, does he go past Rory?
As what?
5-time major champion.
No, he doesn't. Sure, at that stage, Monty's got like about 8 majors.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? That's the point of this.
Oh dear, no. Harrington was on the show a couple of weeks back and like refused even a day after winning the US Senior Open to like acknowledge it as a major. Like, I was like, congratulations, this is amazing. And he was like, nah, not really. No. And I went back to him at the end and said, look, I think again, this is a great achievement. And when you've won a major on the proper tour and then you win a senior one, I think it underlines your kind of status. And he was like, nah. And then he was about to argue it, and he goes, I always argue with everything. I'll just not argue that point with you. I'll take it. But deep down, I got a sense of a man who doesn't rate them that highly.
Let's see how many more he wins. I think he's just desperate to be back on the regular tour competing. He doesn't want to be with the old guys.
Big time. Can I digress for a moment, because I laughed at this the other day, and your talk of Meehan has reminded me of it. Did you read Dara O'Shea's column this week in the Irish Times?
I did not.
Okay, so this is harking back to that. Dara O'Shea harking back to Galway Kerry. That Meehan goal obviously scored in anyway, and so it's the night before the final, and Paddy O'Shea's obviously there at the time, and Eamon Walsh is one of the selectors, and his father had won 5 All-Irelands with Kerry. And they've got an advanced look at the Sunday papers on the Saturday night. So Dara O'Shea says, just as we're heading off to various meetings, Eamon was flicking through one of the papers that was lying around. It was a big novelty for Kerry people to get the Sunday papers on a Saturday night. So Eamon was reading away about the match. Colin O'Rourke says we'll win anyway, he said to nobody in particular. Paddy erupted. How many All-Ireland medals has Colin O'Rourke? I don't know, said Eamon. 2. And how many medals has your father? Said Paddy. 5. Well, shut the F up about Colin effing O'Rourke. I don't want to hear what any other effing man has to say about the game. And all the players fall around laughing. You just reminded me of that there. Just beautiful.
We got lots of Paddy O'Shea stories coming up in about 10 minutes' time with John O'Mahony and Johnny Crowley, because Paddy obviously in charge back in 2000 when they last met in the final. Declan O'Sullivan 2006 against Mayo is coming up quite a lot. Like, this is one of these I have completely blanked from my memory, though as I see it come up on GEA now and look at a replay, I see lots of young lads from Ballyhonus who I was in school with who are about 15 standing in the front row of the hill, but Kerry, this must have been second half, so Kerry are attacking down to the right hand side, long ball in, don't tell me it's Don, oh no, it's Gooch getting it, little flick on, Declan comes from deep, hand pass in, 1-2 with Donaghy, bang. Beautiful goal, well worked. But Mayo were well beaten by then. There's a bit of context has to come into it. Agreed. Has to be a tight game. You don't get any credit for that one.
Totally agree.
Donaghy's goal probably better because it kind of killed Mayo very early. Now it must be Mikey Sheehy's goal against Paddy Cullen. Pure class and genius, says John in Limerick. Dear God. There's a poll up on the Off the Ball Twitter account now to give us the definitive answer to all of this. Where are we going next, Richie? World Athletics Championships? I think kind of time difference means it's passed us a little bit by.
It has, yeah, it's been awkward. Having been third fastest overall in the heats, Mark English returns for the semis of the 800 metres at the World Championships overnight. He's due on track after 3 a.m. Before that, Louise Shanahan goes in the heats of the women's 800. In the small hours of this morning, Rashida Adeleke narrowly missed out on a 400 metre final place by just 1700ths of a second, while Chris O'Donnell's time of 46.01 in the semis of the men's 400 wasn't enough for a place in the final.
Some cricket news.
Yeah, Ireland's women have suffered a third straight defeat in the T20 Tri-Series in Breedy. The hosts won the toss and put Australia into bat this evening, and the tourists went on to make 182 for 4 from their allotted overs. Ireland could only muster 119 for 7 in response, and they lost by 63 runs. One more game to come for them.
53106 is the text number. Go on, Joe.
Well, I'm just surprised we buried the lead story, the Kerry GAA All-Ireland final party.
What's this?
Oh, this is beautiful. So Kerry GAA, about 6 hours ago, tweeted a big picture of David Clifford in, I'd say he's fist pumping, I'd say he's celebrating, if I was saying he's doing anything. Buy your tickets now for the Kerry GAA post-match party at the D2 at Harcourt Street. And they have a link to the tickets here.
Oof.
So as you can imagine, Galway WhatsApp and Twitter blew up. An hour later, Kerry GAA respond, just to say we always have an after party, win or lose, and it's all about showing support for the players regardless of the results. So make of that what you will, Nathan.
I don't know. I heard Owen Sheehan was getting several grand cash to MC this. And that Sam is due to arrive in about 11 p.m. according to Owen's timeline.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, the poster promises special guests, the Kerry senior team.
David Clifford on horseback with Sam, 11 p.m. D2.
Yeah. Well, they've clarified they have the party win or lose, so not to be posted on the Galway dressing room.
No, okay. So that's Sunday night, 9 p.m. Are they special? 20 quid?
20 quid, yeah.
20 quid to get in? Bloody hell. If they lose, you're going to pay 20 quid to get in?
Well,
I remember we had a Mayo pre-match party because, you know, just in case, in D2. Nobody was charging 20 quid in. It's outrageous.
Listen, who's going to pay on Sheehan's salary here?
Well, exactly. Cash only on the door. Strictly over 20s. Is that a thing?
Can't be. That's illegal.
Strictly over 20s. Jeez, we're going to be in trouble now with all these things we're saying. You should go along and have a great night from Kerry. Imagine all the American tourists who are going to go, oh, that looks exciting. There's a big crowd there. We should go there tonight. We're just going to wander in to the Kerry losing party, as it may well be. Haven't paid 20 quid. God, that's a depressing thought for all of them. Richie, have you time for a couple more stories?
Sad news from Germany. Germany football legend Uwe Seeler has died at the age of 85. The former striker played at 4 World Cups for West Germany, scored in each of them, and scored almost 500 goals for his club Hamburg. Seeler was also famously tricked into coming out of retirement in 1978 when he played a solitary League of Ireland game for Cork Celtic. He scored twice against Shamrock Rovers, a team at the time managed by one John Giles.
Yeah, I was asking John about this earlier on. I couldn't remember it.
Yeah, Seeler could remember it in his latter years. He was asked about it a fair bit, and he was working for Adidas at the time, and was asked as a favour to kind of go and give Cork Celtic a dig out, who were struggling financially at the time. I think just 18 months later they were out of business. Him and another German player went over and played what they thought would be an exhibition game, and it was only about 5 minutes in, when Mr. Seeler was getting boots from the Shamrock Rovers defenders, that he realised, actually, this is a League of Ireland game, isn't it? I've been conned into this a little bit. But he was 41, scored twice. Apparently, both goals were brilliant. They came in a pretty short space of time in the game. Turner's Cross, I think it was. And he went back to Germany and lived happily ever after. But yeah, fantastic. Like, one of the most highly regarded players of his generation, or of any generation. He's got one of the best memorials as well, even prior to his death. Outside the Volkspark Stadium in Hamburg, there is a giant statue of his right foot.
Wow.
Just a bare foot, just standing outside the stadium, and it's in dedication to him, who could apparently plough a ball through a brick wall anyway. So, a great man.
Eamon Dunphy playing middle of midfield for Shamrock Rovers that day in the 6-2 victory. John did remember potentially playing with him in a Legends game in Denmark for some centenary of maybe the Danish FA, but had no memory of the Shamrock. Like, it's just how good that Shamrock Rovers team were under John. They were beating a team containing Uwe Seeler 6-2, and doesn't stand out at all. Mick went to the Kerry party in 2008 after the loss to Tyrone. He's going to tell us more about that. Losing All-Ireland parties are the worst place in the world, without question. Don't go. If you lose, just go home. You don't want to put yourself through it.
That's a voice of experience.
JD
right there.
on YouTube with a question that may keep us going for several weeks, depending what's happened at the weekend. Are Galway the best Connacht team of this century if they win?
Oh, painful. Painful question, has to be asked. Colin Boyle, last night in the show, freely admitted amongst Mayo that is like the dreaded talk is, what do we do if Galway win here? So and he was saying it's worse than 98, because we've literally spent much of the last decade in All-Ireland finals. So it's a painful one for Mayo for sure. And well, I don't know, how do you rationalise it, Nathan? Does it prove it's all about mentality if, like, Mayo have all these chances and can't get over the line once, and Galway tend to more often than not get over?
There's no rationalising it, Joe.
No.
Never speak of it again.
No. Well, listen, I look forward to seeing you at the Kerry.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Party on Sunday.
Owen Sheehan has loads of free passes, by the way, here, so if you know Owen, he'll get you in for nothing.
Sorry, is Owen Sheehan actually emceeing this?
I don't know yet. I hope he is.
Ah, sorry. Okay.
Kerry's not a great place to be from for these things. Like, Daithí O'Shea's probably doing it. Maybe it's if they win, Daithí O'Shea does it. If they lose, Owen does it. On that note, Joe, thank you. Enjoy the weekend.
All right, cheers. See you.
Richie, we'll talk to you later. Time for the cash machine.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's Summer Cash Machine.
So after a week of rollovers, we finally had a winner today. Anne-Marie answered Barry's call. Thankfully, she had the number written down, and she won